Mega Man has had a lot of games over the years. Not including the countless spin-offs, we're looking at 10 games in the main series. With so many games, Mega Man has gained a bit of a reputation with the later entries in the series being less than stellar compared to the earlier ones. Some people might even write off the later games entirely, but I find that to be unfair, which is why I decided to play the first 6 Mega Man games and find things I enjoy about all of them. Some of you might be asking yourselves, why stop at Mega Man 6? Because I don't want to be here all day and neither do you. Also, the Legacy Collection only goes up to 6. Sorry. I don't think it needs explaining, but we'll be looking at the games in release order, which means first up is Mega Man 1. To put it lightly, Mega Man 1 is probably the worst game in the series. It's still good, mind you, but it certainly feels like a product of its time. Take, for example, the scoring system. Much like in older games of the era, the whole point of the scoring system was to accumulate as many points as possible to brag to your friends. It doesn't really hurt the game in any way, it just feels like one of the many things Capcom threw at the wall when making Mega Man 1, just that this one didn't necessarily stick. While the scoring system didn't stick, the iconic non-linear stage selection, one of the hallmark properties of a Mega Man game, did. This approach isn't always the best, but I think it works wonderfully in Mega Man. If you find yourself stuck on a particular level or boss, you don't have to keep banging your head against the wall until you win. Instead, you can throw that feeling into the back of your mind by trying another level. Of course, you will eventually have to beat the level at some point, but hopefully going through a couple of other levels beforehand is enough to get you ready for the challenges ahead. Hell, perhaps in one of the stages you conquered, you are awarded with the hypothetical troublesome boss's weakness. Which brings me to another telltale sign you're playing a Mega Man game, and that's the weaknesses and power stealing. Whenever Mega Man defeats a Robot Master, he is now able to use their signature attack at the cost of some weapon energy. One of the big draws to the Mega Man series are the Robot Masters and their special attacks, so expect them to come up quite a bit in the upcoming games I cover. You can see the seeds of other ideas that were fleshed out in later games rear their heads in Mega Man 1. The one that stands out the most to me is the Magnet Beam and how you collect it. The Magnet Beam is similar to the Robot Master weapons in that it has its own energy bar and has a separate attack for Mega Man's standard Buster. It's different, however, because it isn't collected from any Robot Master. Instead, you find it in a small corridor when traversing through Electman's stage. The only way to get to it is to either use Gutsman's weapon, the Super Arm, or Electman's weapon, the Elect Beam, the latter of which can only be obtained after completing the level once. So chances are, unless you grab the Super Arm before heading to Electman's level, you'll have to go through the level at least twice to collect the Magnet Beam. Just keep this in mind when I talk about the future games in the series, because this idea doesn't necessarily disappear. I believe that's all I really have to say about Mega Man 1. It's likely the hardest of the series to get into, but it garners respect for being the one to pave the road for future games in the series. Alright, Mega Man 2. This is a big one, boys and girl. It's widely considered to be the best game in the series, and with a recent playthrough to refresh my memory, it's easy to see why. Mega Man 2 is an improvement on Mega Man 1 in every way imaginable. The visuals are more detailed and nicer to look at, for starters. Static black backgrounds are gone and replaced with a cool shot of Mega Man standing on a building, waiting for a call to action. This is definitely the most dynamic and interesting title card in the entire series, and I wish the rest of the games followed this trend. Instead of just the sprites of the bosses for the stage select, we're given little mugshots that give us a much better look at the Robot Masters. Hell, we're given 2 more Robot Masters in the previous game too. The level design is vastly improved. I don't recall a single time that Mega Man 2 unabashedly reused sections of its levels, and they're pretty fun to adventure through. Also, the slippery momentum that Mega Man had in the first game has been toned down dramatically. However, it should be noted that it isn't completely gone just yet. There's still a little floor friction when Mega is on the ground, but this time it's much more manageable. A few successors to the Magnet Beam make their appearance in Mega Man 2 as well, in the forms of items 1 through 3. Item 1 creates a platform in front of you that slowly rises in the air for a few seconds. Item 2 flies across the stage horizontally until you either switch weapons or run out of energy to use it. And Item 3 sends a bouncing platform forward until it eventually slowly rises into the air for a few seconds. Regardless of some small redundancies, the items are nice to have and give a little variety in how Mega Man can tackle platforming sections. One huge difference between the Magnet Beam and the items, besides the fact that they're completely different design-wise, is how you obtain them. You're given the items automatically after defeating certain Robot Masters, which will be another precedent that is followed up on in later games. But let's get back to the Robot Masters for a second, because I'd be remiss if I didn't at least bring up the weapons you obtain from them this time around. One in particular is one I'm sure all of you are very familiar with. It always reaches the top of the list of best Mega Man power-ups, or most overpowered weapons in gaming. So of course, I wouldn't leave out the Quick Boomerang. With a decent range, fast firing speed, and a large ammo pool, you can't go wrong breezing through the game with this tool of destruction. Time Stopper is pretty cool too. Before we move on from Mega Man 2 though, I want to bring up a very small thing, and that's the difficulty selection. This was added in the American version of Mega Man 2, and basically only changes the power of your weapons to deal more against bosses, and lowers the amount of health enemies have. Many people shun this difficulty option for being amazingly shallow, and while I wouldn't exactly call them wrong, I don't think it's a bad thing either. If what it takes to get a beginner to try and enjoy the Mega Man series is a bit of an easier time, then it's not really hurting anyone, is it? Mega Man 3. If 2 isn't your favorite, it's likely this one. With Mega Man 3 comes the first big change to Mega Man himself, and that's the introduction of the slide. By pressing the jump button while holding down on the D-pad, Mega Man will slide across the ground for a short amount of time. This slide works as a way of progressing through stages faster, getting through small passages in the level geometry, and swiftly avoiding enemies and bosses. The slide, giving Mega Man overall better maneuverability, feels wonderfully intuitive to use and is a natural add-on to Mega Man's kit. Another addition to Mega Man's kit is his new helper robot dog, Rush. Rush is like a natural progression from the items. They're obtained in the same way as the items and do similar things. While the items were practical, they had no charm to them whatsoever. Rush has both charm and practicality. In fact, the Rush Jet in Mega Man 3 is so overpowered, they had to nerf it in subsequent entries to make it more like the item 2. This time around, Mega Man has finally lost all floor friction in his feet, unlike in 1 and 2. I've seen some people claim this is a bad thing, but I disagree. With the removal of the floor friction comes easier to land jumps and tighter platforming. Gone are the days of shuffling back and forth on small blocks to make sure you don't slip to your death. Much like how Mega Man 2 increased the length of the game by adding 2 extra Robot Masters and a couple more Dr. Wily levels, Mega Man 3 increases the length yet again in the form of the Doc Robot rematches. Doc Robot makes his home in the now remixed stages of Sparkman, Gemini Man, Shadow Man, and Needle Man. You fight 2 of them per stage, and each fight he uses the attack patterns and weapons of one of the Mega Man 2 Robot Masters, hence why I use the term rematches. I think Doc Robot is an interesting experiment that they tried. Going through the same locations twice could definitely be seen as rehashing, but I find that the levels are changed up enough to make them feel at least a little fresh. He's got a Frankenstein's monster-like hodgepodge design to him that I find interesting too. To round off this discussion on Mega Man 3, I gotta mention Proto Man. He's introduced as a mysterious adversary to Mega Man, but is later revealed to be secretly helping him all along. Why would he help Mega Man? Because he's his brother, the first robot created by Dr. Wily and Dr. Light. This is revealed in the pre-credits ending, where we retroactively get mugshots for the original Robot Masters of the first game, Mega Man's sister and helper robot Roll, and finally Proto Man. The way this whole sequence is done is great, giving you a feeling of suspense while playing the full version of the small jingle that played whenever Proto Man would appear. Mega Man isn't exactly known for its story, which is fair enough as it's pretty bare bones, but I think it can be damn good when it wants to, and this is one of the big standout moments for me. Oh, and one more thing. Mega Man 3 has this super charming mugshot of Mega Man where he looks towards the current Robot Master being selected. For some reason, they bring this mugshot back in 5 and 6, but it becomes a static image. It takes all the way till Mega Man 9 and 10 before they bring this little touch back full stop, which always confused me. Oh, okay, sidetracked them. Halfway done, on to Mega Man 4. Right off the bat, I got a good impression for Mega Man 4 with the intro cutscene. It retroactively establishes the backstory for Mega Man 1, which wasn't ever fully addressed in-game until this point. It also introduces the new villain of the game, Dr. Cossack. Now's a better time than ever to discuss what is sort of a running joke in the Mega Man community, and the joke is that no matter what the game tries to tell you, Wily will always be the true villain of the game. Mega Man 4 is the first, but definitely not the last game to do this, but out of all the times this happens, I find the way they do it in Mega Man 4 fairly believable. After all, at the end of Mega Man 3, which, by the way, in Japan has the subtitle of The End of Dr. Wily, we see Dr. Wily get crushed by a block of debris, so as far as we know, the guy is done for. It's not too hard to believe that there's another mad scientist running around in the year 2000X. Don't expect me to give praise to the next two villains, though. Who the fuck did Capcom think they were fooling? Anyway, enough of the story, Morning Glory, because Mega Man 4 adds another tool to Mega Man's arsenal, the Mega Buster, allowing him to charge his shots to deal a bit more damage. My first Mega Man game was Mega Man X, so I was used to having this thing from the start, so it felt right at home using the charge shots in Mega Man 4. It's not as potent or as risky as it will become in Mega Man 5, but it's still nice to have around when you want to pack a punch with an attack. The idea of littering extra items and stages I mentioned all the way back at Mega Man 1 finally makes a reappearance in Mega Man 4, with the wire and balloon power-ups. The balloon is pretty much exactly like the item 1 from Mega Man 2, but with a much needed visual upgrade. Still nice to have around. The wire is a little more unique, and that's a bit of a double-edged sword. By holding up in the attack button, Mega Man shoots the wire directly above him, and it keeps going until it collides with the ceiling. Once that happens, Mega Man ascends to the ceiling along with the wire. Think of it like the hookshot from the Zelda games, but it can only fire above you. It's a neat idea, but it's a little on the situational side. Better than nothing though. The method of collecting these optional items are a little different than the Mega Man 1 way. Instead of being on the way towards the Robot Master, you have to take a bit of a detour to collect these. There's also something similar in Brightman stage, but you can only get an E-Tank for your troubles. We'll see this level philosophy used in later entries to greater effect, so for now let's focus on Mega Man 4's levels. They're pretty cool, much better than what I was expecting. They brought some neat ideas for the levels in this game. Drillman's power switches to activate platforms, Dustman's trash compactors, and the overall aesthetic of Pharaohman's level are standouts to me. It's good to know that 4 games in and they haven't phoned it in yet when it comes to level design. Robot Masters are a different case though, not even Dustman can explain himself.
That's my character. I'm the Trashman. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage, and then I pick up the...
When it comes to sequels, Mega Man 5 is about as safe as you can get. It doesn't really do anything bad per se, but out of all the games, it does the least to innovate. Is what a blind fool would say, because Mega Man 5 adds the greatest change to the entire franchise, and that's the ability to dash into the boss doors. It's been a long time coming, friends. Ever since the dark days of Mega Man 3 have I yearned for this age, and now it has finally come. Rejoice! Praise Mega Man 5! Oh, and I guess there are some gameplay changes and new items too. For starters, the Mega Buster was given a rework. Instead of the smallest charge shot from Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5 sports a charge shot a tad smaller than Mega's body. It also takes less time to charge. This comes at a cost, however. When Mega Man is hit while charging, he loses it completely and has to restart it from scratch. I suppose this is meant to be an equalizer to the buffs it received, but I'd be lying if I said this didn't take getting used to. It made me not completely rely on the charge shot though, lest I never get a shot out in my life, so you could probably make a case for either side when it comes to whether or not this was a good change, but overall, I think the changes were worth it. There's 2 more tools Mega Man collects along the way, one of which is the Super Arrow. The Super Arrow is pretty cool. I liken it to the Swiss Army knife of weapons Mega Man obtained. It's a projectile attack, it also sticks to walls, allowing Mega Man to reach higher heights, and finally, it functions as the item 2 from Mega Man 2. It takes up a lot of juice to use, but it also flies across the screen way faster. Great weapon, no complaints here. Then, there's Beat the Bird. Mega Man has obtained another robot animal friend, but Mega Man has to do a little bit of hunting before he can use it. Scattered throughout all of Mega Man 5's levels are characters that spell out Mega Man V on the pause menu. Once all 8 characters are collected, Beat is yours to use. Collecting the characters is a neat idea. It gives completionists / experienced Mega Man players a little something extra to complete in the level, and the reward is well worth it. Beat is Call. Last but not least is Mega Man 6. I'll come out and say that I think Mega Man 6 might be my favorite in the classic series. Perhaps the reason I'm so fond of it was the low expectations I had coming into this game my first time playing it, but I like to think it's a little less superficial than that. First off, Mega Man 6 is the best looking game in the series so far. For a game that once looked so simple, it's amazing to see it come such a long way. Part of the reason these levels look so good is they're also visually distinct from one another. A medieval castle, an oil field, and the western Badlands are just a few of the locations you visit in Mega Man 6. All of these locations sport a Robot Master that's just as interesting. Mega Man 6 is my favorite group of Robot Masters in the whole series, with Nightman being my personal favorite Robot Master of all time, and also one of the only ones made by a Western fan. To me, what makes these Robot Masters so great is the two design themes which seem to go into them. Plant, Flame, Blizzard, and Windman have an element theme to them, while Yamato, Tomahawk, Knight, and Centaur Man have a warrior theme. These two themes make me think Capcom thought harder than usual over what Robot Masters to put in the game, as opposed to making Tops and Snakes go together. Capcom also apparently thought that regular Rush was getting boring, so they changed them significantly. Say goodbye to the now conventional Rush Coil and Jet, and say hello to the Rush Jet and Power adapters. The Power adapter gives Mega Man a short range but powerful and chargeable Haymaker, while the Jet adapter allows Mega Man to hover in the air a short distance, both of which cost absolutely no weapon energy. You're free to use these as you please. These two are another reason why I think Mega Man 6 is my favorite, the Jet adapter especially. Hovering is such a useful mechanic in a platformer, it's a mystery something like this wasn't added sooner. The adapters also open up the stages a ton, as they can be used to access small goodies and even something as large as alternate pathways. Mega Man 6 embraces branching paths full force, and has the most in the series up to this point. All 4 of the Warrior stages feature these paths as a means to collect the returning beat, but that also means that there's much more game to replay on subsequent playthroughs. The largest issue with Mega Man 6 is how easy it is compared to the older entries in the series, but you could definitely spin that as a positive, as you could maybe use this game to introduce newcomers into the series if you find Mega Man 2's American difficulty setting too tacked on. And with that, we're done, sorta. We've tackled a lot of the Mega Man games and managed to find good in all of them. I think the takeaway from this video is that even when Mega Man is at its lowest, it's still one of the NES greats for a reason. Maybe in the future I'll cover the remainder of the Mega Man series, but I'm gonna hold off until that date arrives. This video is long enough as is. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
You got me!
The Trashman!
You got me with the can!
Oh shit, did I get you, Cricket?